Hello and welcome to the Flix Forum podcast, where each episode we go back and we look at a Netflix original film in the order of release. This is our 16th day of Podmas, where we're putting out an episode every day in the lead up to Christmas. Today we have Netflix's 284th film from 2020. It's the Hindi language satirical comedy drama called Serious Men. It's directed by Sudhir Mishra and stars Nawazuddin Siddiqui, Indira Tiwari, Nassar, Aakshath, Sanjay Narrvekar, Shweta, Basu, Prasad, and Yogesh, Yadav. I'm Jesse, I'm your host. Thanks for joining me today in our lead up to Christmas. We're getting super close now, we're over the halfway mark, where we're counting down the days. We do start our show off with the Fast Flicks, where we do a quick little summary of what the film is all about. If you haven't seen this film and you're keen on checking it out, give us a pause now, because we will spoil it in the Fast Flicks. So, my little summary for this film is about a dad who wants his son to have a better life than him, so he concocts a plan to make him the smartest kid in their town. Intriguing, good. There's not, as in international films we see this often, there's not a lot to find out about a film. This one, it's based on the book of the same name by a guy called Manu Joseph, and we've got our main protagonist, or our main character, the dad, played by Nawazuddin Siddiqui. He apparently waited almost 20 years to work with the director Sudhir Mishra, and according to him, from an interview in the Hindusian Times, the journalist, I guess this is a bit of a fact about the film, but the author of the novel, Manu Joseph himself, plays a cameo role as the journalist who questions Chara in one of the press conferences in the film. So a little bit of a nice little thing there as well. This film was released on Netflix on the 2nd of October 2020. It was filmed in Mumbai in India in September of 2019, and it was quite successful on the award circuits across India. It had 6 wins and a further 8 nominations. I guess the biggest nomination was at the International Emmy Awards for Best Performance by an Actor for Nawazuddin Siddiqui. It also won Best Cinematography at the Asian Academy Creative Awards. It won Best Story in a Digital Film at the IWM Digital Awards. And it won Best Web Original Film at the Filmfare OTT Awards. And Nawazuddin Siddiqui was also nominated for Best Actor in a Web Original Film there too. Some other nominations and wins were at the Critics' Choice Film Awards of India, the Hit List OTT Awards, and the Masala Awards as well. So fairly well recognised, this film, across the Indian and Asian continent for awards. Translations across the world for this film. In Spanish, it's called A Secret to Addie, which is not a bad title, because Addie is the son. There's a big secret in this film. Don't mind that one. In Portuguese, it's called Class Coup. Not too bad. Obviously, this film, and when we talk about themes, there's a lot about caste and class. And from my context, I don't understand a lot of it, but I got the general gist of what was going on. In French, it's called Scholars. And that's, I guess, another translation for the idea of serious men, or the serious men in this film are people of the upper class. And in Vietnamese, it's called upright people, again, very similar to the English translation, or the title of Serious Men as well. What are the critics and audiences saying about this film? On Rotten Tomatoes, this one sits at 91% on 11 reviews. That is fresh. The audience has it at 89%, very similar. That's less than 50 ratings though, but still fairly positive. On IMDb, fairly positive too, 6.8 out of 10 on 8,100 ratings. On Letterboxd, it sits at a 3.2 out of 5 on nearly 2,000 ratings. It's been logged by close to 3,000 people. Positive. What are my early thoughts for this one? I think this is a decent film. I mean, if you can get past the implausibility of a kid being able to pull off the scam that we see in this film, it works fairly well, even if you don't get the full cultural context, which I think, obviously, when you make a film, you want to appeal to the audience of your homeland. I get that. It still works. It still works fine. So not too bad for me. Let's talk about the characters in this one. So Ayan is our main protagonist. He's the dad of Addie, which I mentioned before. He works as an assistant to the director at the National Institute of Theory and Research. So he works as an assistant in the science field, and science plays a big part in this film. He wants his son Addie to have the life that he didn't. He wants him to have opportunities. He wants him to have privilege. He wants him to have the respect of society, because that's stuff that he didn't have. Ayan is street smart, and he's much smarter than his son Addie. But he was born into a poor family, and I guess that's why he's so angry at the society that he lives in, and he wants revenge almost. And as a father, you can tell that he cares about his son so much. And this is like clearly seen. He writes this letter to his boss when Addie's born for paternity leave, and the passion that he writes with you can see how much this son means to him and how much he wants to improve his life. So very sweet, I guess, in there, but at the same time, very ethical, not very ethical in his actions throughout this film. Addy, his son, he's got this reputation, as I mentioned before a little bit, as a child genius, and because of that, his teachers fear him at school. But at the end of the day, this is all because of this clever memorization, I guess, that he does, and these teachings and learnings from his dad. So his dad's pushing this on his kid, and that's an awkward situation when you've got a parent putting so much pressure on a child too. Oya, the mother of Artie and Ayan's wife, she just seems so happy that her son seems to be doing so well, and her role in this is to enforce the values on him that he's not getting from his dad. His dad's, I guess they're not values that his dad's teaching, but his dad's pushing that idea of lying and cheating and not being truthful, whereas his mum wants him to be humble. She wants him to not be arrogant, and that's a nice subtle touch, I guess, as well. Arvind is Ayan's boss, and he talks down to him because of his class and his co-workers as well, and he has an affair with a colleague, which sort of gives Ayan an upper, and like I mentioned, he's street smart, so he uses everything to his advantage. The other characters, there's only two others I'll talk about. I guess we've got Anya, who's this politician, a female politician who's rising in the ranks, but she's oppressed by the men that she works with. And she's obviously come from a lower class as well. She's got a walking stick, she's hurt, these types of things. And she wants to prove herself in this male-dominated society as well and rise herself up too. Salali Say Ali is this young girl who lives in the same apartment block as Ayan and Artie. And she highlights, I guess, some of the struggles of some of the people in this society too, because she's subject to domestic violence and she's oppressed, and her father's not recognised as a smart person as well. So there's so many different layers of society that we see in this film as well. The director, Sudhir Mishra, he's got 23 directing credits, obviously making a name for himself in India, and I'm thinking this film probably isn't going to do him any harm in his ability to direct a pretty big film as well. Let's talk about some scenes. What are some scenes I enjoyed in this? What are some ones I didn't? I've got quite a few that I liked, which is a bit of a surprise. I really liked that so Addy the son, whenever things got overbearing for him, he had a hearing aid and he'd take it out. It was just really clever to block out the noise and all that surrounds him, and his ability to just say, this is too much for me. I need to turn off. I like that. I liked when Addy and his family are meeting with these politicians about putting him as the face of the campaign, and they sort of compare it to Sachin Tendulkar as selling cars. You know, a cricketer who's selling cars. Just a really good reference for countries and nations who understand cricket references. I thought that was cool. The speeches that Addy does, we see these throughout about trying to get the people in his society up and about what's happening in the world at their time, with the support of his dad talking through his hearing aid through Bluetooth. I thought that was cleverly done. There's a scene where Addy's at home and he's watching the TV, and the Netflix original film The Willoughbys is on. I just had a bit of a giggle. We've done an episode on that animated feature film, so check that out if you want. I thought that was quite clever. Addy, he tells Say Ali, his little neighbour, the poor little girl who's being abused at home, being left out by her parents, he tells her his secret. And, you know, it's big for him. He's like, this chick's down and out. I need to tell her something to make her feel better. And then we get this follow-up from his dad, Ayan, who goes and sees her, and he's just the complete opposite. He gives her food because obviously she's hungry, and he talks about smart and slow people and says that her dad's one of those slow people, and he puts her dad down and threatens to make him lose his job if she speaks out and shares that secret. And this just highlights those lengths that he'll go to protect his son and the family secret. So I thought that was well done. There's this scene where there's this freak out vision that Addy has when the kids are picking on him. He's seeing this weird stuff. There's people talking to him. The fish in the fish tank at school's talking. The nuns are laughing at him. He ends up on the beach, and then it cuts to him on stage and he's sweating and he passes out. It just shows how much this is all getting to him, that idea of having to memorize everything to not only impress his dad, but better his family. I thought that was really well done. Oja, the mother, Artie's mother, when she finds out the secret, that scene between her and her husband, Ayan, it's great. You know, she says, I wish you were dead. And she wishes that she'd married a pimp, because even though he would have been abusive, he would have been a better father. I was just like, what impactful words. And that idea that she says to him, you only care about yourself. You have problems with the world that Addy doesn't yet. He's young, he's innocent, and you're using and abusing him. It was just so good. I thought that was a great scene. And I didn't mind the whole background story about Ayan's mother being in this famous photograph, and, you know, her being told that, well, before she was in this famous photograph, the one before that, she was told, you know, she didn't look like a poor sort of farm worker. And Ayan's dad made her lose weight to win this prize, and then she passed away. Just super sad, and shows you what some people deal with in society. Things that I didn't like, forgettable scenes. I think the whole start really put me off. It was quite boring. Ayan sort of, we hear about his work and what he does at work, and he walks into his office and there's quotes on the whiteboard, and we see the introduction of all this scientific work about aliens and meteorites. I don't know, I get that idea that we're talking about science in this film, and we'll talk about it soon in the themes and ideas. I just was a little bit bored to start off with. When Oya goes into labour with Artie as a child, it's like done, this shows us, I guess, Ayan's ability to manipulate situations. And they're at this hotel by the pool. They're not guests there. They're just using and abusing. And when she's in labour, she's obviously very abusive to him, and they talk about that. But she keeps calling him a pube. I just thought that was a bit weird. I didn't have any context around that. And then the final scene. The family, they get away. They move to the beach together. And it's like, are they going to have a fresh start? That sort of idea. I didn't get why Oya was still with him. And I get, this is one of the final lines of the film, and I get that the line is the line that Ayan taught his son Artie the whole film through about, if people confuse you or you don't have an answer to one of the questions, you say, I'm not able to deal with primitive minds. I just didn't, and I guess that it's meant to be humorous. I didn't find it funny or respectful, because I feel like Oya deserved better. I would have really liked to have seen her leave him. I'm not sure why they stayed together, so that really frustrated me to end the film, I guess. What's this film trying to say? What are some themes, some ideas? Obviously, that idea of parents wanting the best for their kids, but that idea too, you don't want to turn your kids into an exhibition, and it's borderline in this film. It's highlighted heavily. We've got that idea of class, caste, prejudice, domestic violence, poverty. This film is a reminder, and I don't know much about the Dalit people in India, but these are the problems they face because there's that divide, and this is a common theme that anyone can understand. You've got that divide between the haves and the have-nots, and also that idea of, the poor can also fool those who have power if they have the ability to do it. Not every, people are smart. You don't have to think poorly of people. The education system is mentioned quite a bit in this film, especially with Artie trying to get into school and he can't get in without a recommendation. A recommendation doesn't come, and he's not in the right class to go to this school. But that idea that the education system rewards those with money. But obviously they highlight too, education is so important, and it shouldn't be on your caste or that class of society you come from. It should be based on merit. We've also got Christianity as an idea that's sort of pushed to the lower class in society for a better life. If you believe in Christ, you're going to do better. And that's done through the education system too. Science is a big thing in this film too. When used the right way, I guess, science is a hope for humanity. But at times it's not, especially if it's hogswash or over sort of, not made up science, but science that seems a little bit too extraordinary. We've also got that idea of that male-dominated society, which we see a lot in Indian films, those abuses of power, the idea of revenge on those who do the wrong thing too. Urbanization plays a big part in this as well, that, they're going to knock down these towns so they can build big high-rise buildings, and that again is taking advantage of those people without money, without power, without a voice. And two, with a father and son relationship in this film, that idea of secrets. And secrets, they can create issues, especially if those secrets turn into lies. So quite a lot that's said in this film, in a 2-hour film as well. But in saying that, in taking away from this film, I feel like this film could have cut back a little bit and been a tight 90 minutes. It did seem to drag a little bit. So that's my suggestion for this film. It should have been cut. It should not have been anywhere near as long as this film was. We have a segment where we possibly go onto IMDb to check someone up. I didn't need to, because it was only a week or so ago where we actually saw Nawazuddin Siddiqui in a film that we covered on this show, The Class of 83, where he played Jatil in that film as like the head of this police force. Good to see him, 2 films very closely together. Excellent actor. Thoroughly enjoy his work. I think he does a really good job. So I thought that was a cool little pickup. Are there any questions or ponderings about this film? This sort of ties back probably what I've already said, but why didn't Ayan's wife leave him? I don't get it. She should have left him. It's just silly. That's all I've got to say on that. I'm ready to wrap it up. We give the film a rating out of 5 to come up with our Flix Forum score. For me, like I said before, the start was really tough, but once it gets going, it's got this good feel to it. There's some good performances, some good messages to take out of it, even if those societal issues aren't necessarily easily understandable by anyone living outside of India. I still think it has a good vibe. I'm giving this a 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5 for me. We're on socials. We've got Instagram, Facebook, and X, which is formerly known as Twitter. The question for our episode today is, does Ayan have another plan up his sleeves? Is that concluding scene? Is that what we're trying to talk about? Is that he's sort of formulating what his next plan is going to be? What's his next scam or what's his next move? I'm intrigued because I think this guy is never going to be happy. I feel like he's always going to have this chip on his shoulder and want to prove himself to the world. So I think he's got something else ready to go. We're back tomorrow. We're getting closer to Christmas. Tomorrow, we are back with another international film from 2020. This one is an Italian horror called The Binding, or Il Legame. It's directed by Domenico Emanuele De Fudo and stars Riccardo Scamillo, Michael C. Pizzuto, and Federica Rossellini. That's what we've got tomorrow. I'm excited. A horror film. We're switching it up a bit. Thanks for joining me today. Hopefully I'll see you tomorrow.